Hello, everybody. My name is Robin Pelche, the creator of the Spirit Wisdom Podcast. Today, I have a returning guest, Frank White, aka Aurelius Sopax, the OG of sorcery, here to talk about all things love. How are you doing, Frank?
Hey, Robin, thank you very much for having me. I feel amazing. I'm extremely filled with love because, that's a topic today, and let's get it done. I'm ready. Looking forward to this topic. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into it because I think there's going to be something in here that everybody can relate to. And, love on our path of awakening is it's such an interesting experience. So many questions come up. There's so many spiritual topics trending that have to do with love. I'm super pumped to dive into things like twin flames, soulmates, pulling back some of the delusion out there so we can bring that like grounded truth about how love and romance and our karma on this path will show up for us. So there's a lot to go into, but before I get too excited, I'm just going to start with the basics. Like, what is love?
What is love? Oh man. Well, it exists on multiple levels, I guess. When we look at the chakra system, right? Chakra system, the different energy centers, they stand for different functions of the being, and they also have to do with different states of consciousness. So you can experience love on multiple different levels. So I would say that it's just like all other forces, which are basically just express principles that exist in the universe. So love is one of them. It's a force that leads to expansion. All right. So it's a force that leads to expansion. It's a very survival force. It's the most survival energy there is, in a sense where it can lead to the multiplication of something. Now, in purely biological terms, when it comes to procreation, it would lead to something like sex, right? And that if it is if it is not interfered with, will eventually lead to procreation. So you have two people coming together and they expand into a whole different life form, or a whole new life. And that can be done many, many times, right? So it allows the species to expand, but it exists on other levels as well. We were just discussing other topics before this podcast, right? You can definitely fall in love. Look, an 80-year-old woman is not sexually attractive to me, but I can definitely fall in love with her just because she has not such a beautiful spirit or such a beautiful aura, right? There's no sexual part connected to it, just like you can love your children, but there's no sexuality connected to that, right? So and the same with different ideas, philosophies, pieces of art, all of that can trigger this feeling of love within us. But what all of those levels having, or what the effect on all of those levels is expansion. And I think love is the most powerful force of the universe. Why? Because it enables survival. If a person is not able to love anymore, they're very, very close to death. And yeah, so that is basically my interpretation of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think in society, we're all almost like addicted to the Disney definition of love. You're sold this idea of what it is. You meet somebody, oh, there's a damsel in distress, the man comes in and saves her, and then, oh, it's happily ever after. There's like this romancing the idea of what love is. And it kind of leads you into like what love isn't, because yeah, I think when people, grow up, they're in for quite a rude awakening when they've been sold that idea of love.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the different levels of reality work according to different laws. All right. So it is definitely possible to go from let's say the desire to procreate, purely physical lust, into love. But then you would have to raise the consciousness. Sexuality and pure procreation is connected to the lowest two chakras, right? In order to develop into something more, the energy has to rise into higher chakras, and that has to be intentionally done. However, see, during different phases of the life of a person, different chakras will dominate. The younger we are, the stronger the activity in the lower chakras. So the only and the physical part and the physical laws of procreation will dominate a lot of our actions. Okay, so let me give you an example. You will not see the following thing: two people, okay, man, woman, both in the biological range of being able to procreate. The guy's a complete loser, weak, and has no survival value. And a beautiful woman that is in her prime is falling in love with him sexually. Falling in love with him. That's not going to happen. Why? Because in order for her to fall in love with him, first, the basis of sexual attraction to an extent has to be there. Why? Because the lower chakras must be stimulated, and then the energy can rise up. Now, why is it then that she can fall in love with a puppy and think it's cute? Because we exist on multiple different levels. There are levels of us that are very, very self-centered, but there are also levels of us that are connected to, the planet as a whole, our species, and so on and so forth, right? And even the animal kingdom. So you can basically say this this force of love makes sure that the puppy survives by making it so lovable to us that we want to protect it and help it survive longer, right? That's Mother Nature taking care of the puppy through us, essentially. But it's the same force, right? But so there are laws that really apply to it all. Now, a grown male, it's not in the interest of nature to have him experience the love of a woman without him working for it, or without him deserving it. Therefore, you cannot be a grown man, walk through the world and expect that women fall in love with you when you're a complete loser and have nothing going on for you. You have to exchange something, because she's exchanging her her replication value, which is a very, very big investment, for something. There has to be something in return, right? She's giving up her body and the health complications, and also the she has a lot of risk in terms of investment in the kids. So you have to exchange for it in a lot of ways, right? So
Yeah, of course. So much in the give and the take. And that kind of leads me into like, what are your thoughts on marriage?
well, about the marriage, I think marriage is a contractual agreement, and in a lot of ways it goes completely against what we just described. It's counterintuitive. Even when you look at where those different impulses exist within us, all right? So let's say the sexual impulse is located in a completely different part of the brain than the part that deals with legal contracts and agreements, conscious decisions on how to behave and how to act. Now, first of all, we're not necessarily consciously in control over what we're attracted to. Okay. Now you could say today, I'm going to be sexually attracted to you exclusively for the rest of my life. And then fucking Chad walks up next week and you get turned on or something like that. And well, what about that promise then? Right. So I think marriage can work if it is a conscious decision that both people understand that it is work, and there must be something of a reward at the end of it. Okay. But I think marrying purely for the idea of love is the most stupid idea ever. It's the most stupid decision one can make, whether male or female. I mean, from a woman point of view, it makes a lot of sense, especially if statistically, men have more resources. So for a woman, it would make sense to get married to a man, because she knows down the line she can, benefit from that. That could actually be a smart decision for her. But once again, that has nothing to do with love, right? For the man, it could make sense from a point of view of, I've never been married, okay, but I've talked to many people, and the experience seems to be that both people feel like they're chained to each other, right? And if you take two people that are madly in love with each other, madly sexually attracted to each other, and would chain them together, what would happen after 6 months? They couldn't stand each other anymore. They've seen each other in so many different situations. You know, they've seen their best, they've seen their worst, they've seen literally everything, right? And at that point, I mean, attraction is based on opposite polarities. If you know a person to that extent, there's no polarity anymore. And what happens if both have the same polarity? Like a magnet, they will start repelling each other, right? And that is the basis of marriage. Now, if you understand that marriage is mainly a contractual agreement that has to do with estate planning, then if you go in there with this understanding, then marriage can work for you, absolutely. However, you know, the system incentivizes people to break that contract. And like you said in the beginning, it's a romantic idea, and most of our ideas come from pop culture in one way or another, right? And in most movies, the ending is the getting married part, right? And there's nothing after that, like game over, goal achieved. But if they were realistic, those people would get married, and then a year after that, all the butterflies are gone, and it's daily business, like, oh, you didn't do the dishes, oh fuck, put the toilet seat down, or whatever, right? Things like that would start happening, and then he starts cheating because his secretary is so nice to him, and so she's so new. There's such an interesting quality that he doesn't feel for his wife anymore. So I think marriage from a point of view of love is dumb, literally stupid. It's literally ignoring every single point of data out there. No offense to anyone who's listening, but I think it is a stupid decision. And if you understand what you're getting into, and you're aware of the consequences, then I think it's fine.
Yeah, you shared a video that I liked, and it was about like don't marry someone for love, or don't just be with them for love, like fall in love with their values. And that really stood out to me, like really aligning with their vision if you're looking for something that's going to be more long term. Because yeah, you can be in love, quote unquote love, so many times in your life, but is that person going to be good for you long term? And I enjoyed that perspective.
Yeah,
but I have a
sorry.
question as well. You can go ahead on that, and then I'm going to ask you something else.
I mean, it comes back to the main problem that we all face as humans. We're part animal and part this being that wants to grow into something greater. I would consider our rational capabilities and our ability to plan into the future and be idealistic and all that stuff, that's our divine part. That's a spark of divinity within us, which is incredible and can really lead to great results. However, a large part of us is an animal, and we live in a conflict between those two polarities. And usually the animal part will win because that's the stronger force within us, unfortunately. So if you think you can prevent your woman from feeling sexually attracted from any other man with a ring, because of a ring on her finger, you are fucking out of your mind. That's not going to happen. That's ridiculous. In the same way, if you think that he is not going to desire another woman in his life anymore because he said he said it at one point, that's also delusional. So we have to be absolutely realistic, and it's about both people being completely honest and realistic and being adults about it, and then coming to an agreement. I'm not a big fan of open relationships at all. I'm really not, because I know it messes up the energy dynamic, but that at the end of the day would lead to, you have to have a partner then that is willing to grow with you and to really explore different aspects of the psyche and of sexuality. And at that point, I guess it can work. But this romantic idea of, two people are just made for each other and they don't have to keep growing together, I think is ridiculous. Like I said, I believe that everything in the world has to be earned. So whenever I want something, I have to think to myself, what do I give in order to deserve that? If I want a long-term relationship, or if I want a marriage that lasts for decades, that is a shitload of work. And if you're willing to put in the work, I'm sure it can work. But if you expect it to work out just because 10 years ago you said something and she said the same thing and you agreed on that topic, that is delusional.
Yeah, it really is. It's a really uncomfortable truth that people will do anything to not see. I mean, if you just listen to like lyrics in like pop songs, the charting hits, it's all about relationships and love drama and like holding on to things that have like long expired. And it's just like all the toxicity and just like poison that can ensue from people really romanticizing this idea of like, that's mine. That person is mine. Like they've taken love and then it's now like possession. I own you. You can't even think outside of, you know, what's normal and natural for you. And it's really bizarre to see. And like I've been in relationships too with that dynamic and been on the end of being like jealous and stuff. But the more that you can grow into shifting your perspective and understanding that we are very close to nature, and contracting yourself to another person is pretty intense. Like I just see it as marrying the government at this point. Like I would never get married again. What I might do is have like a celebration for soul choice and freedom with somebody. I would celebrate my sins, you know. That seems more beautiful to me, because then you start off with honesty and freedom. And I think that's, I don't know. I think that leaves a lot more room to grow and flourish and leave room for, like you said, open discussions, honesty. It's just so uncomfortable because we've all been sold this lie, and you really won't wake up to that until you experience relationships yourself. And one thing that's really trending in, we'll say, spiritual communities is the idea of a twin flame or a soulmate. And I wondered if you could share your perspective on that, because I mean, there's entire cults around just twin flames. Like, it's so wild to me that somebody thinks there's just this like one person that's going to complete them, and they, you know, they'll stick with them through absolute fucking hell. Like they're both poisonous for each other, just to like keep holding on to the idea that this is my twin flame. We're fated for each other. And I didn't know what your thoughts are on that, because the representation I've seen on it has been a dumpster fire.
I think you can guess what my answer is on that topic, right? I mean, obviously, look, I'm just speaking from my own personal perspective. I don't want to devalue other people's ideas or perspectives on that topic, because I'm definitely not an authority on love. I've never been married. I don't even have kids. Okay, I've broken up a bunch of marriages by making the wives cheat on their husbands with me. And you know, I've definitely broken a couple hearts. Okay, so that's who I am. So I don't take me as the authority on love and long-term relationships, right? There are definitely people that are better at that than me. But all right, so okay, once again, the idea of twin flames, soulmates, and all that stuff. Look, once again, what are you willing to give up, or what are you willing to give in order to receive something? The idea that there's just this twin flame and you haven't found it yet, basically it prevents you from taking responsibility, because you're just going to look for that person and you're just going to go out and you're not going to work on yourself. Maybe you're even going to work on yourself, but once again, that twin flame is supposed to complete you in one way or another. Now, that's a pretty big ask. You know, that's asking for eternal happiness or fulfillment, which I don't think can be found here based on the basic, you know, workings of the psychic. But let's assume that person is there and they just fall from the sky or whatever, or you meet them at a grocery store. Oh, we were reaching for the same banana or whatever, right? First of all, gentlemen, if she's reaching for bananas in any suspicious way, you should be worried. Anyways, so All right, back to the topic. All right, so what are you willing to give to have that person? And look, nobody imagines their twin flame to be a bum, right? So I'd say a guy that envisions his twin flame, she's like super hot, smart. She's like very feminine and whatever, does this and that and the other, right? And she's a freak in the sheets, a lady in the streets, and all that stuff, right? And she's, I don't know what she imagines him, but I've read a couple of very popular romance novels, right? And there's like different qualities that you can discern, which seem to be universally attractive to females, right? Now that's not an average guy. So what are you willing to give to deserve a person like that? You know, and yes, love has to be deserved. Why? Because you're not a child anymore. I said it in one of the earlier podcasts. You know, Mother Nature has set it up in a way where the only person that's gonna love you unconditionally is, you know, hopefully your parents. You know, but after that, it's not gonna happen. As a woman, unfortunately, yes, the world will judge you mainly by your physical attractiveness. I'm sorry to break it to you, and I mean, listen, if females that are listening to this, I'm a guy. I'm not even half as aware of that as you are. You know that way better than me, right? And as a guy, you are valued based on how competent you are and what you can do for other people. That's just the harsh truth of life. So as a guy, you have to think to yourself, what can I do for this woman? How can she benefit from me? Not just sexually. Every man out there has a dick, okay? And I don't, yeah, you're probably the best guy in bed and all that stuff, whatever you think. There's the guy that fucks her better than you, for sure. So what can you offer her? You know, how can you improve her situation some way or another, right? And as a woman, what can you do for your guy? That's what you have to think to yourself. How do you raise his status? That's basically what he wants. And if you understand how to make that happen, then you deserve that guy. Otherwise, you don't. So twin flames, I think it's horseshit. It's bullshit. It's just another fantasy, just like many other fantasies out there. I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion. Don't want to hurt people, but that's how I see it.
Burst in bubbles with Frank White. It's funny when I think about like women and what they say they want. They want the guy who's 6 feet tall, you know, minimum 6 inches down there, and makes at least 6 figures. So it's kind of like the formula of what they're all looking for. But it's just what you said, like, what are you willing to become? How are you actually going to become a match to that? Because it's very likely he's not going to put up with your
Badass.
Yeah, you're if you say badass or fat ass.
Badass.
Yeah, if all you can do is twerk and I don't know, take selfies, like, I don't know, what have you got to offer? What have you got to offer? It's a self-development process, like as within, so without. You want to attract somebody like that, you're gonna have to become somebody like that yourself, and in ways that are complementary to you.
Yeah, we attract what we are, not what we think we deserve. We attract what we are. That's what it is.
Yeah, just straight up. Going back to marriage, I had a question. So in like celebrity culture, there's a lot of buzz about like Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. And I don't really get into celebrity culture, but I thought this was interesting because we were talking about marriage, but it's people got into like a lot of rage and, you know, the satanic panic about their ritual they talk about that they've done, where it's like they their ceremony is like they would like kind of trade like a drop of each other's blood as a way to, like, I don't know, like create a pact. I didn't know if you'd heard of, like, you know, we know about traditional marriage, but in the occult, like, is there other ways people kind of solidify their commitments to each other? Because I thought that was kind of interesting. And I know that blood in the occult is really strong. It's powerful. It's quite symbolic. So I thought it might be interesting topic.
That's a very, very interesting topic. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. There are many ways in how you can spiritually connect yourself to the other person, which is a very strong connection. Absolutely. And you can also do that in ways that are permanent. Absolutely. Yes. Blood is going to be part of that. I'm not going to go into all the details of the ritual. Yes, but blood has to be part of it. There has to be an oath. And the person that breaks the oath will pay for it dearly. Seen it firsthand.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know it was like a thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Spiritual marriage absolutely does exist.
Wow. So interesting. So I guess that would be, it kind of leads into like ritual sex as well, I guess. Is that, sorry, I wanted to ask more questions about it, but we can continue. I found there to be a lot of healing by looking at my natal chart, and having like a good look at what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, what placements were in different houses, because that really opened up a lot of possibility for myself with accepting the type of love I wanted and was a match for. And I didn't know if you thought that was like really important in understanding, you know, our matches in this life, even how like synastry, like taking somebody's chart and like comparing it to yours to see how you guys would work in harmony. Have you seen that to be like an effective tool as a way for people to learn more about like what kind of matches they're good for, what they should be looking for?
Yep, that is an important tool, and it's a valid tool. I do believe that. I mean, you can't be too similar, but you can also you also can't be too different. That is for sure. So yes, you can definitely use synastry charts as an indicator of how well that person jives with you. And the funny part, it's not even necessarily a thing about age. You know, the age can be very very different, but the energies must match in some way or another. Absolutely. Now, how do I put it? Well, there has to be, of course, a similarity in the paths too, you know. Um, yeah. So from a spiritual perspective, I guess that's what you're asking me. Okay. So how would I personally look at choosing a partner or being with a partner from a spiritual perspective? Well, there has to be a shared vision, okay, and there has to be also a shared spiritual path. And first of all, you're not a vacuum, and you're not a clean slate, if that makes sense. All right, there are spirits around you, there are energies around you, there's certain energetic karmic connections from the past and also from the future, because energetically or astrally, time is not really linear. You're like, these things affect you from the past, from the future, and so on and so forth. It's like one big energetic mess that we're all experiencing here. So all of that has to match in some way or another, right? And if you work against that, sooner or later the conflicts are going to arise. And it's not just like a small argument. The conflicts, I mean, you're literally going to be incompatible. And ancestry is also a big part. If the ancestries are not in alignment with each other, or if they're in conflict with each other, there's also a problem, which is gonna show up. So yes, I think astrology is a great tool to figure out who would be a good match for sure. Yeah.
How could someone's ancestry be in conflict with someone else's? I've never heard that before.
All right, example. There is something called family karma. All right, family karma. And yes, we are to an not necessarily in the sense of guilt, but we're karmically tied to the past in some way or another, right? Now, let's say your family had what's the word? What would be a good example? Your family, which is not unlikely, would have had a connection to a certain spirit, okay? And the other person's family would have a connection to another spirit, then if those spirits are in conflict, that's not going to go well. All right. So every family has like an energy field around it, like an egregore, a group spirit. And if the intentions of those group spirits are not in alignment with each other, they're gonna battle each other, And if the children then are like the product of that, they're going to have two separate intentions, bigger intentions within them. So this idea of individualism is not fully correct. It's not the whole picture. We are in some way or another the product of our family lineage. That's also very important who you have children with, because you're aligning yourself with that energy line, if that makes sense.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, my mind's blown a bit there. So how does that play into to like all the different incarnations we have that are playing out at one time as well?
Can you be a little bit more specific with that question?
I know it's so broad. My mind is like in a pretzel right now, so I'm trying to like process what you said and still think. Okay, so like in this lifetime right now, say you have this, love interest with another family or with a guy, and your family spirits are battling it out. But I guess like over how many timelines is that happening? It's just interesting. Sorry. I don't know if I'm making sense because I'm
Yeah.
trying
Okay,
to think about it.
I guess the main reason that is confusing is because what you probably heard for most of your life was a Christian idea of how the spirit works or spirituality works, is essentially there is no life before, there is only life after. And we're basically born into this life as a blank slate. We have to prove ourselves to this big daddy in the sky. And if we're good boys and girls, we go to heaven. If we're bad boys and girls, we go to hell, right? Obviously that's bullshit. The reality is much more, it's actually much more structured, and it's much better figured out by other cultures, such as like, some certain Buddhist cultures and certain, Hindus, the Hindu cultures have very much figured that out. Okay, so karmic astrology is like a normal thing, and even here, I'm from, I was born and raised here in Germany, right? So even here, you have like folk magic, where that's like a normal thing, like just 3 generations back, people would literally just plan their next incarnation. Okay, I think in my next life, I'm going to become this, and that is very not that hard to do if you understand how the planets, and the energy cycles work. A friend of mine who I grew up with, his parents actually conceived him intentionally according to certain astrological cycles at a certain astrological time. They basically thought about, okay, what is the best birth chart that we want him to have, and then they conceived them accordingly.
Okay, that makes sense. Then I guess I have a question that is like kind of weird, but okay, so we hear of like some really strange relationships with people. Like, it could be like a mom and a son, or a brother and a sister or something. They're like in love with each other. It's like, it's weird. Like everybody's like, what the fuck? But is there like a possibility that maybe they're still playing out like karma, or they have maybe in another life? Because people, when they reincarnate, do you think they reincarnate with like a specific like family of people, like a soul tribe, or say they still have karma to play out with somebody, but there's still like that energetic residue from when maybe they were in different roles in another lifetime? Like, could that be an explanation for some of that stuff that you see, where it's shocking to see it, but then if you actually think of like what might be going on there?
No, I mean, I would say for the most part, stuff like that is just pure degeneracy. Okay, and there are spirits also that enjoy to be connected to degeneracy. It's not a given that we evolve from incarnation to incarnation. De-evolution is definitely also a possibility. You can definitely fuck yourself up pretty bad. Now, now the point is the following thing. Let's define what a soul is, okay? The soul is a set of energy fields, energy bodies that we use to manifest throughout the different realms of existence, which start very subtle, and then they become more and more dense until they hit the physical world. The physical world is the lowest incarnation of all of that, okay? But they're like different layers, and they all affect each other. So the physical world and everything that happens here, including your physical body, your family lineage, and all that stuff, that's a temporary manifestation of all those energy fields. Your eternal core, however, is beyond all of that. Okay, your eternal core is one with whatever you want to call it, the divine, all of existence, right? So for whatever reason, you have a certain body, a certain lineage that you've incarnated into. You don't have to reincarnate in the same one. However, it takes a certain level of awareness. You have to go beyond the karmic cycles in order to decide what point you're gonna, or what energetic system you're gonna reincarnate into. Okay, but unless you develop this awareness, you are trapped in a cycle that's called samsara, right? The wheel of reincarnation, where you have no control over it, and you're constantly dealing with your own projections and the karmic consequences of whatever energy you put into motion. I would say in none of those scenarios it is beneficial in any way, shape, or form to fuck your mom. Okay, so and that's completely unnatural. But look, I mean, people are literally, I mean, incredibly resourceful with the bullshit that they come up with to justify degeneracy. You know, I'm definitely not a prude, but I tell you, there are a lot of things that I would never do at all, because I understand that they're degenerate. You know, and that comes from a guy that does a lot of things. Okay, but the stuff like that is just sick. It's just literally not good.
Thank you for enlightening us on that topic. So do you think karmic contracts exist with people? Like, you've talked about the idea of like that spiritual marriage. It's another, buzzing topic out there, just that we're fated to meet certain people at certain times and play out these relationships. And I know it kind of goes into what you're saying with like the wheel of incarnation and the energy we put in and out. Do you think it's fated that way, that we'll, inevitably just bump into certain people at certain times to finish what we started?
That, if it has been consciously decided, yes, that can be the case. I'm not ruling it out, but I mean, it is possible, yes. Energetic contracts do exist, yes, and you can incarnate in a situation where you're going to meet that person again, and you're going to have a connection. But I mean, that's different from a twin flame or a soulmate, right? Now, I guess what I'm trying to say is essentially for the most part, sexuality has very little to do with those things. Even if we might think, oh, that's the one, or oh, she's so special and all that stuff, that usually has nothing to do with spirituality at all. So I think people have a tendency to mythologize mundane things, and that's not necessary.
Yeah, you worded that really well. Mythologize mundane things. That's a lot. I think that's a lot of what's happening in the new age. So another thing I wanted to talk about was, so you're on this path of awakening. Your third eye is beginning to, open up. You can start, getting in tune with your psychic abilities. But then you get into a relationship with someone who doesn't really, isn't able to like meet you there, or hasn't begun doing any of those things. Like, what are like the ethics, of the dynamic of that? Like, if you're like a psychic, right? And it's like, should you read your partner? Can you even read your partner? Like, when you have like access to like all this knowledge and wisdom and even, creativity to be able to divine things, like what do you recommend?
Yeah. Once again, it depends on the fundamental ideas what we have in mind. Let me take a step back before I answer your question here, which is the following thing. Okay, imagine a girl that is 15 years old and reads one of those magazines where it's like, this is how there's an article, this is how you know that you met your soulmate. This is how you know he's the right one. Okay, so what she's going to read in there is essentially, after 10 years with him, you're still gonna feel butterflies like you just met him, and it's gonna be super exciting, and he's just Prince Charming for all he's never gonna get mad, or he has like only beautiful emotions for you, blah blah blah, right? So this is now a subconscious program that is running in her mind. She's not aware of that though. Now she's an adult, she's 22, and meets a guy, and yeah, she feels it. butterflies. He's so handsome, right? So she meets him. They get together. They get into a relationship. Fast forward 5 years. He takes care of her. She learns a lot. She's like I said, taken care of. She's he's very respectful. He teaches all kinds of different things. But after those 5 years, there are just no butterflies, right? She doesn't feel any butterflies anymore. Now the subconscious program is going to activate, and she's going to be like, well, he's not the one. He can't be the one. And it's not even a conscious decision, you see? And this is how the mind works. We're programmed from a very early age onwards on how things ought to look. And the mind can't operate in a vacuum. So we always need a contrast. We need something to compare it to. So what she's going to decide is that's not the right guy, and she's going to break up this beautiful relationship, right? So that's number one. Number two, what I'm trying to say is essentially, back to your question, which was, again, one second, you asked me about, okay. So what are the ethics of you spiritually being evolved, or how do you handle that if your partner can't match that, right? Once again, that's what is your ideal in a relationship. I don't believe that you should be in a relationship with an equal. I don't believe that. Why is that? Well, what I'm about to say is really controversial, but I don't give a shit, right? I'm the Bronze Dawn. I say whatever the fuck I want. Anyways, so from a perspective of a guy, hypergamy is what women do. All right, hypergamous means they always look for either equal or at least at the same level or higher, right? So, if a woman is at my level, she shouldn't even be with me. She should look for somebody who's at a much higher level than me, right? So that's basically how I view it. So if I'm in a relationship with a woman, I'm not expecting her to match what I have. What I bring into the relationship is power and influence. What I expect her to bring is balance to my masculine energy. That's what I'm looking for. I think that's what a lot of women also get wrong. Men don't expect you to be powerful or compete with them. Listen, I compete in the world enough. And if you compete with me, even if it's just, if you start competing with me deep down, I'm going to, like, the feeling is like I'm meeting a competitor, and that just makes me want to crush you in one way or another. You see? So I want feminine softness. I want your feminine. That's God-given. You have that already. You're feminine. I want that. I don't want you to change. I don't want you to be anything else, because I don't have that. I don't have access to that energy. And that's exactly what is probably very annoying to a woman, being like all over the place and being so whatever, fluctuating. That is exactly what men want. Men want feminine women. We don't want masculine women. We don't want to be with a guy. So I don't expect her to match me in my power or my influence or any of that. I want a woman. All right. So there's no need for her to be at my level. That's how I would see it. So if she can match me in any way, shape, or form, I don't think she should be with me. She should be with a guy that does her in some way or another. And I think that solves a lot of problems in my life.
Yeah, that kind of answers what the like healthy representation of like the feminine energy and then the healthy masculine, because women are really programmed for like, boss bitch energy, super independent. We're, really taught to strive for that. Like, I don't need no man. Yeah. It's weird seeing everybody kind of just go into that role reversal. And I know we talked about that a little bit on the first episode we did as well, just kind of like the inversion of that. So I like what you said, because it really, it's like a sigh of relief, to hear. It's just like, wow, like maybe we don't need to try so hard, right? Because you kind of have to like give yourself mental permission to stop the rat race a bit, to stop competing. But that's also difficult too, because we're set up in a society where, women are kind of forced to become that way to survive.
So that they can tax 2 people per household, not just one, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But that also leads me into like the topic of like, okay, so like when we're getting into psychic abilities, you know, because this is all about like love and the occult, like reading your partner, you know, I've heard you say something like, yes, the body's so sacred, but the mind is like the most intimate thing. And what are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Well, I believe that women do that naturally. It's men that have to work on their intuition. I think women, as they allow themselves to mean their feminine or feminine polarity, automatically they will be super intuitive and they will be in touch with the invisible. A woman can also see a man's potential right away. It's not even an effort. When she sees a guy, she sees the potential in what he could be. And what pisses her off is if you waste the potential. That's why she's going to start nagging. So your job as a man is to allow her to awaken that feminine within you. And that's why you need a woman. And you have to be comfortable in your masculine, which is essentially there's nothing wrong with your aggression, but it has to be directed towards something. You don't have to hide from your ability to destroy, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do. In a positive sense, you have to conquer in one way or another. You have to conquer the world in one way or another, right? So you have to as a man, your strength has to create the safe space where she can completely let go of control, and then she's in her full feminine polarity, and that's gonna give you access to the divine. She also is allowed to be in touch with that, and then this is what leads to eternity and immortality, because deep down that's all, what everybody's looking for. That's why we want children. We want to immortalize ourselves in some way or another. We want to be in touch with something that's greater than our physical body, because we all understand that we're very vulnerable, and the physical body is just very weak. So we seek access to the divine. The feminine can't do it by herself, and the masculine can't do it by himself. The masculine requires the feminine in order to connect to eternity, right? And the woman needs to have the safety so that she can let herself fall into her feminine polarity. So your job as a man is to become as strong and powerful as you can be. That's your duty as a man. And in order to do that, you need that aggression. You need that power and strength in order to deal with the world, right? You become hard, you become tough, you become strong. That's your job as a man. The woman should never become that, because she's cutting herself off from her power as she's doing that. As she becomes tough, as she becomes strong, first of all, she's denying the man the gift of femininity, and she's also cutting herself off from immortality, right? The man, as he can still find a woman that is still in touch with her femininity, but if a woman cuts herself off from her femininity, she's essentially like useless. Yeah, I said it. Anyways, anyway, so the right, from a spiritual perspective, the right way to do these things is essentially, as a man, you need to become strong and tough and powerful, so that you can allow her to feel safe to fall into her feminine energy. And then as you both combine, you can touch eternity and immortality, because that's what you both want, but you can't do it by yourself. Nobody can do that by themselves.
Yeah. So as you were talking about that, I'm also thinking of like the power plays that show up in like kinks and stuff as well. And I wonder if people just were able to like really get their needs met with like that kind of like divine union, if a lot of those things would even, you know, exist or need to be sought out.
Yeah, if everybody here observes themselves, people will probably see that how do I put it? The situations that make you feel out of control make you often escape into a fantasy world, right? And that fantasy world is going to be a reflection of the things that you have not dealt with. I'm gonna make it more concrete. Okay, there's a pattern in a lot of people that when they're faced with stress in the outside world, they masturbate, for instance, in order to find a release of that energy, right? And that and it has to be, what's the word? Yeah. So the release of the energy in that situation is a way for them to cope with what they can't control. So how do I put it? So the point is, yes, so sexual fantasies and sex itself is definitely a playground for the shadow, if that makes sense. Okay. So the shadow of the psyche is a byproduct of existing. As spiritual beings, we want to bring order to chaos, right? That's the old Freemasonic statement, order up chaos, or ordo up chaos, right? But when we don't have enough order within us, power and structure in us to bring order to chaos, there's a what's the word? There's a repercussion that creates chaos within us, right? And that chaos then is has to express itself in one way or another. Some people get angry, some people get mad, some people internalize it as self-hatred, some people use sexual release, whatever, right? But that sexual release is never that pretty. It's always like in somewhere or another twisted. So what we have to understand is that everything is just an energy dynamic. Our psyche is a force that must bring order into this world. Order requires energy and strength. And if we don't have enough to deal with the outside world, it will lead to destructive, self-destructive behavior, right? So, however, once again, that's like there's a feminine polarity and a masculine polarity, right? And yes, it is true that females have a masculine polarity within it, but the feminine polarity, generally speaking, is much stronger. Just like with men, the masculine polarity is much stronger. So this principle of bringing order into the world is a masculine polarity. The stronger you are in your masculine polarity, the more you're able to deal with those repercussions and the chaos in the outside world, and you bring order to it, you bring structure to it, right? The stronger you are in your feminine polarity, the more you're able to just dissolve into love and just accept everything. And it's like a different quality, but both of those are necessary, because the feminine can't dissolve unless there's a protection around it. Okay. So, sexually speaking, when you talk about different sexual fantasies, a lot of sexual fantasies are just a result of that. There's a repercussion in the psyche. Okay, so there's something met in the outside world that can't be dealt with, and boom, and then there's a repercussion. Now that internal chaos needs to be dealt with in some way or another. It's energy, right? So you have different choices there, and people deal with it in a different way. But often, very often, those chaotic energies are then expressed in a sexual context, because that's the only release that the person has. They can't get just randomly mad. They can't just like break shit, and it stores itself up, and then in a sexual context, then it can be released. This is where this is a lot of what's behind the BDSM scene. This is behind a lot of things. A lot of kinks essentially. So I don't want to pathologize every single kink or fetish. That's not my intention here. However, that's what's behind it for the most part. So I think in the first interview that we did together, I mentioned that it's important to integrate the shadow and to integrate the subconscious mind. And what you will find is that that you will just be whatever you are. The more you integrate the shadow, the less of a need there is to first of all do something hidden, and the less of a need you will have to do like aberrated stuff. Aberration means it's just weird, if that makes sense. Weird, what most people would consider weird.
Weird.
Yeah. And I mean, no judgment here, no moral judgment. Okay, obviously everybody can do whatever the fuck they want. All I'm saying is that what's behind most kinks is something that is not dealt with in the outside world.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you go like on that healing journey and you start working through your traumas, your point of attraction and the people and situations you become attracted to, like it just changes so much the further you go.
Exactly. You see? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm.
Yeah. It's so crazy to think of like what I used to think I wanted and how it's like completely different scenario. Like the more I've gotten to know myself on even like with entrepreneurship and developing a vision, like you got to have a vision, because that really sifts through, you know, everything that doesn't really fit into that. And you can get really clear on that. And it's wild to see just what you can outgrow, to not be so like attached to what you think you like, be willing to grow with yourself. And yeah, even the identities we give ourselves. So love, sex, it's all so complex. I guess pain and pleasure kind of go hand in hand with love. That's just the natural organic process with that. And because love is so powerful, like you think of like when you have that divine union with somebody, you guys, like you would become like a powerhouse. And that would be really interesting, you know, when it comes to manifesting things, because they say, you know, if you have like a
listen, a man that has a woman that loves him becomes unstoppable almost. It's crazy. Like, and instead of negging, if a woman would just speak power into her man, it doesn't take that much. It's just, hey, I believe in you. You're so great. I believe. A woman has the magical power of speaking life into her guy. And if she treats him like that, he will actually become that. She has the power to, there's no king without a queen. You see what I mean? So she has the power of turning him into that, or she has the power of breaking him down. You see, that's what a lot of women don't understand. They think they have to take him down, but that's programming, right? So yeah, she can speak life into him, and he will he will literally turn into a Superman.
Yeah, I believe that. That's crazy. When you said that, it's just like I just got like waves and waves of chills. I'm like, that is some potent truth right there.
That's how you know that it's truth. Your body responds to it. You cannot, like, truth is universally recognizable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Universally. Universally.
The power of our words and how we speak to each other and how we think of each other, that really, really affects everything. So I had a different question too, kind of on the topic of sex. So there's a lot of like talk about, like, say, men holding out like their orgasms or whatever, because they can use that energy to manifest. And how different is that for women? Because I was kind of curious about that, because there's a lot of information out there regarding using your sexual energy for manifestation. Like even if you're on like a solo journey, how does that look? Like how could you use your sexual energy in productive, creative, healthy ways instead of just fapping to porn all day?
Well, it's creative energy. It's creative force, right? So
Yeah.
you can use it to jerk off, yeah, or I mean, or you can use it to create something else. Creation means on multiple different levels. You can create a new philosophy, you can create a new business, you can create whatever the fuck you want, but it's all about creation. And as you release that, you are releasing that creative energy, and it has to be restored and it has to be recharged. That takes a while, right? Especially as a guy. Women absorb that energy. I promise you, almost every piece of art has been created because of a woman, because a man was fascinated and energized by a woman that he was in love with. I guarantee you, almost every empire has been built because of that. So it's crazy how women don't understand it, and they think they have to do the same thing. It's not like that. You have to be a woman and be in your feminine polarity, and then some Napoleon is going to fall in love with you, and he's going to conquer the world for you. That's exactly how it works. You see, I mean, there's the muse, you know, it's the concept of the muse. Every great artist, everyone out there that has done anything had a muse, and a muse is there to inspire him. You know, inspiration means in spirit. How do you come in spirit? Through a woman. That's what a man needs. He needs a woman that puts him back in touch with his with spirit and with his mission, and then he's going to conquer the world for her. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's a nice love story.
Yeah, that's how it works. I promise you, like if you look at the biographies of all of those men, they had one woman they were in love with, and they wanted to do everything for her. He wanted to give her the world, and boom, they built an empire for that. They built this and that and the other. All of those guys, those incredible entrepreneurs, they have a muse, a woman that is worth it to them, you know.
Yeah. And then as you talk about muse, there's a lot of talk about goddesses. And there's every like course and tagline and hashtag and everything, like goddess, goddess, goddess. It's really, really trending and popular. And I just wanted to know, like, what is your opinion of like goddess energy? Yeah.
Yeah, the hierarchy of men is mainly determined by power and influence. The hierarchy for women is mainly about purity and to what extent she's still in touch with nature, with the universe, and to what extent she's able to purely channel that, right? So there's this concept that, okay, I would actually have to use this whiteboard. Can I share it, please? So I can
Yes, let me
share it to the viewers.
There we go.
Man, this is gonna piss people off out there. Okay, I don't give a fuck. I'm the Bronze Dawn. Go, go complain somewhere. Go complain to Robin. Okay, complain on her page.
Don't complain to me.
Anyways,
I'll send you back to Frank.
So we're speaking of polarities here, all right? So we have, when it comes to men, we have different levels of quality of men, okay? So we have kings, we have number 2, we have knights, we have warriors, and we have slaves. So what is the definition of each of those? Every man is born as a slave, which means he is dependent on another person in some way or another, okay? So it starts with his father or whatever, and then it's something else, some institution. And most men never go past that stage. 70% of all men remain slaves their entire life. They're dependent on other people. The warrior, that's what usually shows in purity. By the way, as you reach higher in those levels, you get more and more in touch with your masculine essence, which is your personal connection to spirit and spirituality, your purpose, right? So usually if somebody is above average, he will in puberty in some way or another, he's going to become a rebel. All right. Those are the warriors. Those are the guys that are like, I don't know, the skater boys that are like that. They don't listen to the teacher. They're like bad boys and all that stuff. Right. And ironically, those are the guys that are most attractive to the girls. Right. So, and then we have the knights. The knight is a little bit more matured. That's whatever. That's an adult man who has become very, very good at his purpose. So he is very good at, has influence, power. Usually that's connected to money, but he has no ethics. He has no ethics. His ethics don't exceed his power, which means he's going to destroy himself with his money or with his power, influence, and all that stuff, right? So that's a knight. And through a dark night of the soul, the knight can become a king. At that point, his ego dies, and he understands that he needs to live for something greater than himself. Then a knight can become a king, and he starts to live for his kingdom, his purpose, his mission. He starts to live for pleasure and selfish gain. All right. So those are the levels. So the hierarchy, or the level of where you are in the hierarchy, is determined by power and influence. Okay. So for a man, having sex must be earned. That's nothing that we get for free. Okay. For women, it's very different. Women, I mean, you got to be really like nasty in order to struggle to have sex as a woman. I mean, come on. It's like different. So, okay. As women, for instance, there's oracles. There are queens. There are princesses. And there are whores. All right. So the level of the woman is determined by her ethics, for the most part. Ethics. Why? A woman that uses her sexuality can easily get ahead in the world. However, she becomes a whore at that point. Okay. A woman that will, first of all women are born as princesses. They have the potential to either become a queen or a whore. When she has good ethics, she will become a queen. When she has bad ethics, she will become a whore. qualities of a whore are the following things. She uses her sexuality to destroy men. One of the worst things that you could one of the worst things that you can run into is a relationship with a whore. She has no ethics. She's very selfish. She has no purity anymore. She's what's the word, defiled in some way or another, right? A princess that stays pure in some way or another, and that's not just sexual. It has to be a pure heart for the most part. Remember, we're talking about spiritual stuff here. A slave becomes a king by getting more and more in touch with the spiritual essence. So he transcends his ego at the knight's level and becomes a king and operates from a higher perspective. Here, the princess, let's say the princess becomes too infatuated with the world, and she uses her body, and she believes that all she is her body. She doesn't listen to her intuition anymore. Boom, she will turn into a whore. And how does she become a queen? She becomes a queen by staying in touch with her feminine essence, which the nature of the wisdom of nature speaks through her. She doesn't have to explain anything. She doesn't have to study all of this stuff. She understands just through her heart and her connection to the universe and nature, right? Boom. And then the queen for a long time was with the king. She was with that guy, and then the king died, and then she becomes the oracle. She's seen everything and all that stuff, and then she becomes the archetype of the old wise woman that the king goes to in order to learn about his destiny. All right. So you talked about how throughout your spiritual journey, the people that you get attracted to change, right? It works like this. A slave wants a whore. We're talking about spiritual essence here. A whore wants a warrior. A warrior wants a princess. A princess wants a knight wants a queen wants a king, and a king wants an oracle. That's the spiritual essences that we fall in love with, depending on where we are and who we are. Yeah. We live in a slave and whore society. 70% of the population are slaves and whores. Okay. And we got very few people that are here. And then we got even fewer people. Like 3% make it to king and 3% make it to oracle, if that. So yeah, most people are somewhere, like I said, 70% of all men never even start that journey. Those are like the normies, Joe Schmo, the guy that you will meet commuting to work in fucking traffic, like the normal guy, right? And this is literally almost every woman that you will run into, so.
Well, I mean, it's encouraged. You just look at like the Kardashians as being like the goal for most women. It's just how much they can inject into their lips and their ass, and how they can use their sexuality just to get what it is they want. That's normal. Yep. Or you have like the trophy wives. I mean, people look down at prostitutes, but is it any different? It's just,
what's interesting, most of those kings that I know, most of those really, really successful men that are also ethical and like super respected and powerful, most of those guys, they're not with these Barbies, those are like the Barbies, the Kim Kardashians. That's what escorts look like, professional whores. The women that they're actually with and have relationships with, they're like, of course they're beautiful, but they're like normal looking. They're like the housewife next door, good mothers, the women like that. That's what they actually seek. And yeah. And I don't know if anyone here who's ever been with a 10, bro, like, and 10 is basically like this, like these girls with like, these girls, right? They take like 3 hours to get ready in the morning and shit like that. Like, these women just bring problems, bro. They're so self-centered. They're completely narcissistic because the whole world just fucking revolves around them. They bring more problems to your life than they add value. Okay. And if you're honest with yourself, the only reason why you got them with you is not because you like them, but because you think that other guys will think you're the man. If she's on the seat next to you, wow, look at that blonde, whatever. Oh wow, look at her tits, Bob, whatever. You don't even like her. all you want is that other guys think you're the man. It's not worth it, bro. Women like that only bring problems into your life. They bring conflict with other guys because she can't live without the attention of other men. So she's gonna attract attention from other guys, and they're gonna try to fuck with you, try to mess with you because they want her. Number one, other women hate her. So there are all kinds of catfights that you're gonna have to take care of. And she's an emotional mess. I guarantee that. A woman like that has no soul. All she got is her body, and she knows that that's fading away. So she's an emotional wreck. All right. The closer she gets to 30, the more crazy she's gonna get. Just saying it. Do whatever the fuck you want. I'm just speaking from experience. These women are not worth it, and they're not even good in bed.
As you're saying that, like, it actually makes me really sad. It's definitely my Pisces nature, but it's just like, oh, it's just like you just want to cry, because it's like you can talk about it and like make fun of it, and it's like, it's cringy, but it's really fucking sad that women believe that's what they need to become in this life. I just can't imagine using my life to be that. Like, that is your life goal, like the lack, the void of aspirations or vision or purpose is just, just bottom of the barrel, just your doormat at that point. Like, it's so fucking sad.
Yeah, it's like I made a post a while ago. I'm gonna read that, okay? It's on Facebook. I think that encapsulates what I think about that topic. Let me just read it to you.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was talking about that exact topic in that post. Scrolling. There you go. All right. Ask the attractive women in your life what will remain of them once they have lost their youth and their beauty. Right?
Yeah.
Hashtag Oracle. That is the true essence of the woman you are with. A true queen has a natural intuition and can read the energies around her easily. She will say things that reflect the wisdom of nature, and that's innocently spoken, without the need for linear logic. She's like a crystal that magnifies your power. A whore is dull and empty. She has lost her innocence and can no longer be a vessel for the divine. A defiled being, sad and lost. When you choose one, choose a queen. So what I'm saying is, what you were describing, essentially, yeah, they're defiled, they're empty, they're empty, and they can't be a vessel for the divine anymore. They have lost their connection to the universe, essentially, and that's why usually there's a strong connection between the more is on the outside, the less is on the inside. You get what I mean? So, the
hot and crazy scale. That's mandatoriously referred to, but it is really sad that some men find it to be quite accurate. So, like, okay, say that's how a woman has lived for a long time. How does she begin to like rebuild herself? Because I don't believe that there's a point of no return. I think there's always, if there's ever a pure intent to want better for yourself, I think it can always be turned around.
Well, okay. I mean, that's I'm assuming that's the case. However, I don't know how to do that. I'm not a woman, I don't really know how that works. So I can tell you as a guy, you have to learn to be strong. You have to go through, you have to deal with your own issues. That's basically what it is. I mean, you conquer your own self by dealing with your insecurities, your fears, and that's how you grow. You got to deal with your own issues, man. And that's it. That's what you do as a guy. That's how you become a man.
Yeah. And I guess for a woman, it starts with like self-love. Instead of finding that love outside of yourself and the validation in all these ways, how do you actually start loving yourself? Because if you had that discussion with the 5-year-old version of you, what would they think of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like how men seek respect and women seek love, right? That's also an interesting distinction, because I think for a man, respect is more important than love, to be honest. And self-love, interesting topic. Yeah, I mean, I think for you as a guy, I'm speaking to the men that are listening to this. For you as a guy, love should not come from within. Love should come from your accomplishments in the world in some way or another. Absolutely. Because if that's like I said, that's for women, self-love. That is for them. Your life looks very different. Even though people want to pretend that it's the same, it's not the same thing. As a guy, your life works very differently. And becoming a man is a very different path than becoming a good woman.
Yeah, and I appreciate the distinction too. Because society's just trying to lump everybody into just one size fits all. And if we've learned anything from like the failing school system, everybody's so unique and different, and you really have to work with what you've got. And so for women, the first steps of self-love. If I loved myself unconditionally, what would I choose? If you actually asked yourself that question and answered honestly, your whole life would change in an instant. And I say that from personal experience, because that was the one question someone asked me years ago when I hadn't even had the vision of what I would be doing yet, but I had a feeling I wanted to change. And it was that question alone that you can't argue with it. If you're about to like make a decision, or even like go on a date with somebody that you're not feeling, but you're like, oh, but I'll just get food. Well, if you loved yourself unconditionally, what would you choose? But it's like, honestly though, right? Like so many women will just go on dates just to get a free dinner, or they'll really just give up themselves in so many different ways just to get something. But if you really loved yourself, maybe you would spend that evening, I don't know, watching something that, like watching a video, learning how to do your finances better so you can take your fucking self out to dinner and get the food you want to have. Instead of, manipulating or whatever. Like your intention will become a lot purer when you align yourself with that question. And I think that makes you a very powerful point of attraction in your life, because that's your values. Self-love. Radiate that, bring it into yourself first, because you have to first become the thing that you want to be a match for. So how fierce are you willing to love yourself?
What I could also imagine, and I'm not gonna, you tell me if that's right, okay? But I could also imagine that it's very confusing to a woman that men can completely separate lust from love, which is essentially, it must be very, very confusing, especially to a girl or a younger woman, that a man, as long as he wants to have sex with her, is super attentive, gives her everything, gives her all kinds of attention. Then he's allowed to release, and then it's like he's a different person. He changes completely, right? That must be he's hot and cold. Now, that is if a man doesn't love you, if no heart is involved, but if only his balls are involved. So that's that must be super confusing to a lot of women. I'm sure, because a man will do anything to get sex. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, that's the case of a lot of ghosting, online with dating apps and stuff. Women are like infuriated by that, but they give it up. He has sex with them, then he's on to like next. He doesn't have to chase them anymore. The thrills of that, working for it is kind of gone, because they think they have to give it up quickly. But I guess people just need to be really honest about what it is they want. And as you said it, like I'm emotional. I've been hurt by things like that in the past, and it's a sad thing for a woman, because we want to be able to be like men, but we're not. It's like women can't separate it. It's just that straight up truth, because we have even beyond what we want to have control over the situation, but our hormones say a different story, just from like our makeup. You mentioned something about like women, they release oxytocin. So that's a bonding chemical. When a woman is breastfeeding her baby, she's releasing oxytocin. Like it's like this.
Also, if she has sex with you, if she orgasms with you, she's in some way or another, she is a little bit in love with you. They also change. You could just see, like, if they after they orgasm with you, all of a sudden you lost all of track. Like her spell is gone. Like before you come with her, let's say you're not in love with her, like you have no emotion, you just want to fuck her, right?
Yeah.
There's a spell that she's put on you, almost like it's like you would do anything to have sex with her, and then that's gone. You came, And then all of that is gone. You see her for what she actually is, and then she kind of looks weird. She's actually not that hot. Like, oh, okay, whatever. You like it's hot and cold, right?
Post nut clarity.
Exactly. You come back to your senses, exactly. But then she starts talking things about like she really wants to get to know you, and it's like, oh yeah, wow, you're actually very handsome, and blah blah. Like it's almost the opposite. She gets more interested in you afterwards. It's really funny. And I think the problem, women are making it too easy these days. I mean, I'm sure a couple decades ago, you would have to put like a lot of stuff up, man, you have to have a good job. You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to talk to your dad, all kinds of stuff. You have to jump through a lot of hoops in order to get pussy, right? Nowadays, man, it's easy. It's really easy, you know?
Yeah. Well, look at Tinder. I have a guy friend who goes on Tinder and is probably out with like a new girl every night. Like it's crazy. And he's sleeping with them all. Like it's easy. He knows like the step-by-step, like how to get with them. It's just like a psychology adventure for him. And yeah, it's just a norm, you know?
And yeah, it's like 80% of all women fuck the same 20% of guys. That's what it is, yeah.
It's crazy.
So
and then we're being told to be empowered by that. Like women are.
No, the guys always stay in power. 20%. I mean, if you have a little bit of game and you're not ugly, it's really easy. You see what I mean? It's really easy. And like you said, it's all about, mainly it is psychology for sure. It's all about the fake takeaway. It's about like reverse psychology and all this bullshit. And it's, yeah, unfortunately it's easy. But I mean, what is sad for a guy, it's not that guys are happy about that, what always makes me sad about that stuff is, look, okay, what's special about that then? It's, I guess I'm guy number, if it's that easy to be with you, fuck, I mean, I'm sure many guys before you have had you, and that's like, it's really, that's what makes me sad. It's basically, bro, okay, there's nothing special about you. Yeah, that's a turn off for me if I know that other guys could have her, and especially if the guy that she's been with I would consider inferior to myself. That would be a massive turn off, because I'm like, what the fuck? You would be with that guy? And wow, I have put my enormously great sperm into you. It's that's sad, It's like,
my enormously great sperm. I love your confidence. But I get it. Yeah. Like what men want. It's so strange because like you have like OnlyFans, and I mean those women make fucking bank on there.
Not all of them. I have a couple models on OnlyFans, actually. I have my assistants manage their accounts.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. But shall we read this stuff? I mean, it's anonymous. It's anonymous. Yes. Let's give people a taste of what's going on there, actually. Okay, so one of my models, she's a fin dominatrix. Does everybody know what that means? Can you explain what that is, Robin? Fin dominatrix.
Financially doming men. It's a power play where she has control over his finances, or men who donate money to her. They'd be like a pay pig, things like that. There's a lot of different terms. Men get off on giving women control of their resources.
Yeah, and being degraded at the same time. Mm-hmm. One of my models, she's a fin dominatrix. Okay, so men get turned on by being abused by her verbally, and also like and there's something called sexting albums, which is essentially they're pretty generic, but I mean, the most money is made by guys believing that they have like an individual relationship with that girl. So there are like these pre-made sexting albums where it's a generic message sent out to those guys, like 5-6 messages that escalate, and the guys basically think it's for them specifically, right? So I'm going to read you a little bit of a chat that she sent me. So he contacts her, I'm so horny, mistress. I wish I could get pussy with my little dick. She says, hello, mistress. She says, hello, my slave. All right. This is all anonymous. That's why I can put that out here. Nobody knows who the fuck I'm talking about. Just some fucking loser and one of my models, right? She sends him some pictures. And she's like, haha, you went out? No, ma'am, but I want to. She asks, you being slutty? Yes, mistress. I wish I could get some. Yummy. I want to see you licking someone's cum when we do our first session. Yes, mistress. Anything for you. Good to hear that. He says, can you send me a voice message, mistress, saying send me money now, you fucking faggot? She's like, sure.
I'll get on that.
What a pathetic loser. My God, is that pathetic. All right. She's like, sure. And then she sends like voice messages, right? Where she probably cussed him out or something like that, right? What did he want to hear? Can you send me a voice message saying, send me money now, you fucking faggot? Yes, mistress. I'll send it right now. And then she sends him some pictures of cum, like basically sperm, jizz on different surfaces. And she says, you're a cum eater. You should be. And he says, I want you to make me get on my knees and suck a real man's dick so bad. I want to hear you laugh while I do it.
Have you thought about like creating your own like audiobooks, Frank? This is really great.
I've actually had that idea. It's called erotic audiobooks, because when I was in high school, it's different. It's called different in Germany, but as I was like 17, I would write fictional erotic stories and sell them to the girls in my classes. But that was before the internet was big, you know. So I'm that old, actually. Okay. He says, can I PayPal you some money now while I'm drunk and weak and pathetic? She says yes. So it goes on like that, right?
What am I doing in life to not get these messages?
So yeah, it's kind of sad, actually, right?
Oh my God. Well, you know, people have more money than brains. Sometimes there was like a girl on TikTok and she was selling like a fart in a jar for like, and it went for like $50,000.
A fart in a jar? For real?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, if that's your bag, baby, right? I don't know. I don't know. I'd love to interview some of these people, just like, why? You know, maybe it's just they have to control so much in their life, and they're in these, you know, powerful roles. Maybe they own big corporations. Like a lot of these men have a lot of like authority and respect, and they have to uphold this image, but deep down, you know, they have needs that aren't getting met, so they need somebody to be able to talk back to them. They're collapsing under the stress or whatever. Like, I mean, although it's like, it's really funny and entertaining to read it, but it's almost kind of innocent at its core.
Well, okay. Yeah. What I'm about to say is not funny. And maybe I shouldn't have laughed earlier, but that's a grown fucking man. Okay. Let's come on. It is funny. And you all thought it was funny. Everybody was listening. Okay. So let's stop.
It was kind of funny. But we must be super serious about this.
Yeah. There's an interesting, I mean, okay, you said that a lot of those guys are in powerful positions, but a lot of those guys are not in powerful positions either. So it cannot be the factor of being in a powerful position. Psychologically speaking, the psychological studies and the research shows that those guys were usually sexually abused by their mother or older female figures. And yes, it happens the other way around too. I've been sexually harassed by women a lot, older women, not my mother, thank God. But yeah, I've experienced that. And well, I definitely don't send messages out like that. I'm also not meeting dominatrixes in my free time. But what I'm saying is a lot of those guys have been, you know, sexually and emotionally abused by their mother, psychologically abused, basically. And that's what it boils down to in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. That is
Well,
really sad. Well, just to see, like,
I mean, if you look at the statistics, though, they say that that's the official statistics. I'm sure it's even higher, the real numbers, right? They say that every third girl experiences sexual abuse, and every fifth boy in some way or another, right? So, and that's the official statistics. So, you know, the reality is even crazier.
yeah, it's much worse than that, and it's really hard for men to probably receive the type of healing they need, because there's so much stigma and shame around that. So I guess in a sense, you know,
You know,
the
I have,
fetishes could be quite healing for people.
yeah, I personally know people who have been sexually abused by women, and it's a different way of how they deal with it. They wouldn't be good. They wouldn't go to a therapist or something like that, you know.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, there's rhyme and a reason to all the expressions of humans. You know, just getting comfortable with being human. That's a big ask of people, because I mean we're weird. Humans are fucking strange.
Yeah. But it could also be that we're intentionally not taught how to deal with our own minds, you know, because look, I mean, a lot of knowledge from let's say NLP, psychology, and all that stuff, right? NLP is kind of like considered the holy grail these days. Also, a lot of technologies from, let's say, Scientology, for instance, and others. They're straight from magic and the occult. You see, so the thing that is very therapeutic about magic is essentially the following thing. In order to develop real magical power, you need to go through the filter. Basically, there's the individuality, okay, and then there's the universe, the macrocosm. If you want to affect the macrocosm, which is magic, through the microcosm, through changes in the microcosm, you have to remove the filter between the two. Now, the filter is what we call a personality, and the personality is, for the most part, a reaction to the trauma that we experience. It's like you know, Wilhelm Reich, he called it the personality armor, because it's literally an armor that we develop over time as we go through painful experiences. We develop these mechanisms on how we avoid re-experiencing those painful experiences. So magic, you have to basically face that shadow. You have to work through it in order to maintain your magical power. I'm telling you, like 50% of a magical practice is really this inner work, going through those energy blocks and removing them, and reflecting and releasing it, going through all of those emotions that are part of experiencing it, right? And magic is essentially, it forces you to deal with all of that, you know. So, and you know, in that context, a lot of those techniques that are known as NLP now, and it's like Scientology and then auditing and all that stuff, that comes out of magic, straight out of magic. And I think magic would help a lot of people deal with their shadow, for sure.
Yeah, how could they start? Do you have like a easy way for them to?
I'm gonna, in the comment, we can drop the link to the OnlyFans profile of my model, and then everybody can message her, and she, you know, she's gonna beat it out of you guys. She's gonna beat it out of you. She's gonna all make you suck a dick. As a result of that, my bank account's gonna be filled up. No, I'm just kidding. Joking. That's my humor, okay? That's my humor. Anyways, no. How do they start? You have to have time throughout the day where you practice introspection. Your mind is constantly in a loop between memories that are being triggered by outside factors, and projections and avoiding and so on and so forth. So it's essentially it's a loop of projections, expectations, fears, and all that stuff. You rarely experience reality as it is. So this introspection and just taking notes on what's going on within you is going to allow you to have a more objective perspective on the whole thing. And as you become more objective and you're able to observe it, you will find a connection to a part that is eternal. It's similar to what you will learn in meditation, which will also be part of that introspective practice. Meditation allows you to get in touch with a part within you that is unchanging. It's just an observer. And from that point, your emotions can be handled, the traumas can be released, because the trauma is just an energy pattern. There is a memory, yes, things that happened in your past, but what makes you suffer for it is that you're in your mind, deep down in your subconscious, you're stuck in a loop of that of re-experiencing that over and over and over again. When you release the energetic charge that is connected to that memory, you're going to be free of having to re-experience it, and you can move on clean and cleared. And that's really what you need to do. So there are many different techniques. There's a Sedona method. There's Psyche. There's like EFT. There are like yoga itself. Yoga is beautiful for that. Meditation, mindfulness meditation, all of these things. You have to work on your inner world. And that will be reflected in your external world for sure. So you won't waste your money. Won't waste your money on fin dominatrixes anymore.
Please don't. Breaking even like the generational traumas, like letting that end with you. A lot of people learn these things just from the cycles and patterns that have been passed down through their family. So
yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. That's a big part. Like, just your parents are humans too. They're not all knowing, all powerful creatures, they're just humans.
Yeah. And we're not responsible necessarily for like what happened and what we were taught, but we're responsible for what we do with it and how we choose to live our life and for what we want to create. And we have the power to do that. And that's where magic can really, really come in. And like Frank said, the power of, being the authority of your own mind and inner world, to let that reflect out into your outer world. You want to bring in love and harmony and balance into your life. Seek that within. I see Frank laughing. You're on mute.
Just laughing. It's such I agree with you. I
thought you might be reading more of your text messages.
No, I wouldn't. I do that in private. Whenever I'm in a bad mood, I read the text of some loser out there. They're pathetic, man. I'm not doing that bad. Bro. I've never gone there. I'm just kidding, of course, guys. That's my humor. Okay, that makes me laugh.
I thought it was great. I wanted to be like, pause, I need to go get some popcorn, read all of the messages.
Oh God. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't think that's for YouTube. Life so seriously.
I don't think that's for YouTube. I already, like, in private, I told you a couple of things that I've heard people say, like, okay. I don't know. I don't want to traumatize people. We're here to heal. We're here to heal. I don't want to be responsible for more trauma. Yeah. Absolutely.
You're welcome, everyone. We're not telling you. Don't try to think about it anymore. All right. Well, I know that you have a meditation program to teach. Maybe that's actually great. Oh, it's in an hour?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was right now.
If you want to keep going, let's keep going.
No, we can keep going. Okay, cool. Yeah. These fucking time zones.
I'm confused about it as well. I thought you were PST, but it's EST. Yeah.
They always get me. Oh, yes, EST over here. So yeah, you're talking a little bit about NLP and the origins of where that stemmed from, but that kind of reminded me of psychic seduction. That was a topic I know that you're very skilled in, and you help a lot of men with their pickup game, adding some romance in their life. And yeah, I thought it was a really interesting topic. And didn't know if you wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, psychic seduction. Well, I always try to use this metaphor. I think I heard that from Ross Jeffries. It's not even my own. Ross Jeffries is an OG in the psychic in the seduction game, but more like a NLP area. Anyways, he said my mic is going crazy. Okay, he said that if the mind of a woman is a house, and the bedroom is sexuality in her mind, the room right next to that is the imagination. So if you can capture and lead the imagination of a woman, you can capture and lead her sexual pleasure and power and all of that. And now you can I mean, in a mundane way, you can do that through words and through language patterns and all these things, right? But energetically, you can use your own imagination and the energy that you generate with your own aura in order to trigger sexual desire and sexual feelings in another person, including a woman that you might want to seduce. You can start by, I don't know, you can, what are the limits? Let's start with the limitations of what is possible there. You can't force love, because love has to be voluntarily given, but anything short of love is definitely possible. You can make her fantasize about you. You can make her, like just madly desiring you sexually. You can make her see you as the fulfillment of all her sexual fantasies and desires, even the things that she's not even aware of, because you are working with her unconscious mind. And if you're not going for the body of a woman, that's a mistake that men often make. Women function a little bit different when it comes to seduction and attraction. You're gonna have very, very bad success if you go like really if you're really on the offense with a woman, like, and then you try to seduce her like physically, yeah, even if you're physically attractive, it's like it's not natural for a woman to be like, oh, you have like a six-pack and big biceps, let's fuck. It's not what a woman does. Men think like that. Women are more like, it's like a process. It's like really, you have to go through a certain sequence of seducing her. She's also looking for other cues than just physical cues. She's looking for certain psychological cues in you, and personality traits that she's looking for. Okay, so 5 characteristics that a woman would be really attractive. Okay, I'm going to teach you now how you can turn yourself into a 9 or a 10 in a woman's mind. Okay, so you can be the equivalent in a woman's mind, the equivalent to a woman with beautiful hair, beautiful face, big tits, and beautiful curves and all that stuff, right? And you can do that just through stories. Okay, the traits that women are attracted to are: you got to be a leader of men, you got to be a protector of loved ones, you got to be you got to have healthy emotions, and healthy emotions just basically means that you don't take shit and you're not random. Basically, she has to know that you're not just randomly going to start punching her or whatever. She has to know that you have healthy emotions. You're not a psychopath. Pre-selection, she wants to know that other men, other women want you to. And the 5th trait would be the willingness to walk away. You're non-needy. Okay, that's, if you can trigger that in a woman, she's already going to be very attracted to you. Okay, so the example was, look at me, ugly guy, bald, none of that, right? So I start talking to her and tell her, it's a random story. I tell her, hey, my ex-girlfriend, she was like this Victoria's Secret model. It doesn't matter if it's right or if it's true or not. I'm just telling her a story, just talking about something completely different. My ex-girlfriend, she was a Victoria's Secret model, man, and she had those shoes too. Boom. Now all of a sudden, the equivalent, I have hair, boom. Then I tell her about, man, my niece, I love my niece so much. My sister tells me I spoil her too much, right? But man, sometimes I think about, if somebody threatened her, I couldn't even help myself. I would just go mad and take care of that threat. boom, now I got tits in her mind. Okay, boom. Now I'm even more attractive. Then I start talking about, oh man, I just got a message. Well, I don't know what it is, man, but all my friends, they always gravitate towards me when they need advice. It's almost as if they can't make their own decisions. I'm always the leader automatically. Boom. Now I got like, some nice curves. I've become very pretty. And then I'm just non-needy by what? I'm being cocky and funny. I'm just making jokes. I don't really care about her response, she's not my judge. I'm basically not putting her on a pedestal. I'm basically just funny, cocky, funny, a little bit cocky. Women love cocky guys, by the way, even though they will tell you that they don't like cocky guys, actually they love cocky guys, right? And yeah, you just gotta take the situation not serious. You're like, oh, nothing's a big deal. Nothing she will ever say or do is a big deal. It's just one opinion, right? Most guys subconsciously have, especially if they're talking to a beautiful woman, they feel like her judgment is so important. Bro, you're dealing with a person that has a lot of insecurities, and usually the more beautiful she is, actually, the more insecure she is, because a lot of her identity is invested in her looks. And those are the types of women that if something is wrong with their makeup, with their clothes, they will think about it all the time. It's just, it's just what it is. It's just how they've been programmed. It's just how they've been raised. Okay. So you're dealing with a very insecure creature, and there's nothing to worry about, man. She has her problems too. So that's basically, you got to see her as a human being. That's basically, and if you can trigger that and you're presentable, then obviously you can't do that if you're like 600 pounds and like, I don't know, like haven't taken a shower in 5 weeks. But if you're a normal looking guy, you can make literally almost any woman attracted to you, right? Just by using those psychological factors, because that's what they're looking for. It's not necessarily your car. Okay, that helps if you got money or if you got like a good job or whatever. Yeah, that helps, of course, obviously. But that's not all. That's not necessarily what closes the deal for you. So yeah. So that's basically the mundane level, right? So how do you get women? And then you can also use energy, of course. We're connected through an invisible field, every person out there. If you can use your imagination strongly enough, you can transfer. It's almost like these waves in water. Let's say you throw a stone into water, you will see these shock waves into the environment, right? It's the same with our emotions. We're constantly emitting this energy into the environment. So if your imagination is strong enough and the energy that you generate is strong enough, you can literally access her mind. And then you can make her feel a lot of things. It's okay, let me give you an example. Let's say the subconscious mind is 95% of what we experience. The conscious mind is like 5%. Right now, you're not aware or remember every single thing that happens into your life, right? But your subconscious mind remembers. So what you can do through psychic seduction is essentially give her subconscious memories of having been with you before. You give her subconscious memories of having had sex with you, of having had lifetimes of being in love with you. You can turn yourself into her subconscious soulmate. You can access
Don't know if you can hear me, but you are frozen.
You're frozen on my side.
Oh, okay. All right, I can see now.
What was the last thing that you
understood? I heard you could, like, you give her these subconscious memories.
Yeah, you can give her subconscious memories. So we all have subconscious memories, and based on that, we're responding to the environment, and we're responding to the person in front of us based on those subconscious memories. So you can enter her mind and give her the subconscious memory as if you her long lost lover, and she's going to respond to that like that. That's how you.
Would her body even like produce, like, say, like oxytocin just from those like subconscious memories?
Yep.
Whoa. So you just made that physical.
Yep. Yep. That's how you. Yeah. There's very few like your imagination is the limit of what you're able to do. You can experience with her whatever it is that you want. You can even what I like to do is like on the first meeting, on the first meeting in the bar, like since I'm very good at this, had a lot of experience, and my imagination is extremely strong, way beyond like a normal person because of an occultist for many, many, many years. While I'm having a conversation with her, I'm taking her through one of my favorite things is I take her through this journey where I'm her bodyguard and she's the princess, you know, she's the princess of you know, whatever. Her dad's like a family of this fucking I mean, her dad's like the king of this fucking kingdom. I'm her bodyguard, right? And everybody else is killed, and I have to protect her while we're being like in foreign lands, and I have to protect her and fight off all the enemies, and I save her life like 50 fucking times while we're on our way there, and she falls in love with me. And then there are these romantic scenes at the fire, you know, and then like it almost happens like a little movie, right? And she falls in love with me slowly, right? And then by the time we're back, she's like, by the time we're back at her dad's place, she's in love with me completely, and she can't like she's mine. And you take her through these scenes and these stories, and she will actually feel the emotional response. She can't help it. She doesn't know why, but for some reason she feels like she's been in those situations with me. I've saved her life 50 times, and just for that she has to give me a baby, you know, something like that. And I mean, your imagination is really the limitation, what you can do there. It's pretty powerful.
Powerful indeed. I'm just gonna take a moment to pick up my jaw off the floor.
Yeah, but you got to be ethical. You got to be ethical, because I mean, you can definitely hurt people with that. But you can, like I said, you can break up many marriages, you know. You can break up a lot of relationships with that. Not intentionally, but what you're doing is you're basically in the beginning, when you learn this and you get good at this, you're going to be like a kid in a candy store, because every woman now is like, oh well, yeah, blah blah blah. Yeah, I could. Oh yeah, she's nice too. But over time, you get a little bit more selective, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun when you can discover just how much like influence you have. So how does that work with like, okay, say there's like a guy and he likes a woman, but he's just like fantasizing about her all the time. It's like that's his porn. He's just imagining being with her. Is that kind of like the same thing, or like what's the difference between the two? Like when you're doing that to that woman, are you intentionally like sort of like if you do like a spirit invocation, like you've like, is there like a sense of like invoking that spirit, or you know, you're kind of like placing that in their mind versus just trying to like vampirize or you know what
No,
I'm saying?
what he's doing is he's feeding her energy. That's what he's doing. That's why women like that usually have a glow about them that they didn't create themselves. It's literally all those guys jerking off to them. Not even kidding.
Oh
Not
my
even kidding.
God.
It's, yeah, that's why celebrities have such a big presence and aura. Even if you didn't know him, you would sense that there's something different about him, because people are feeding them energy all the time, including guys jerking off to them. But there's a difference between thinking of someone and just jerking off, and intentionally. And I think people underestimate how much focus it takes. It's like an intentional, focused procedure that you do. There's a difference. Just because somebody can think of you doesn't mean you can put a spell on you. Even if you didn't jerk off onto your pictures, Robin.
Wow, that's why they call it a tribute.
What? What?
That's what the guys like if they like come on a girl's picture, they call it a tribute. Now it has like a whole
That's what they say. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Tribute. Oh, okay. Yeah. Very accurate.
Here's all my life force.
Yep.
Oh my God. Oh wow. Like it's so crazy, the stuff that you can do. The thing that like helped me with understanding my psychic abilities the most was just imagination. Like the more I would just let my mind run free, the clearer things became when it came to like readings and tuning in. So I love that just in your language and helping people understand, you know, the imagination is so powerful. Like the infinite realm of creativity is just what I like to call it, because you can just, it's endless. It's so expansive. And it's like, we're talking about psychic seduction, but I mean, this could be for so many things.
That is the reason why the imagination has been hijacked so much, and that's why they're breaking people's, especially children's, ability to concentrate. There's a reason why the attention span is attacked, or has been attacked. TikTok and all this shit, like 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. It's intentional. It's in order to hijack the mind easier, and in order to destroy people's ability to create, because the power is literally there. It's the power of imagination, and if you can break that for people, they're controlled. They're literally just these bodies that are responding to outside stimuli. But if the human being is fully developed, they're extremely powerful and almost impossible to create. In fact, it's something you have to be very, very worried about, because now they're playing on a battlefield that you can't even control anymore. How is somebody going to control you or control your life if you are a magician? You can literally change the circumstances, like literally. Okay, what? There is no way to control a person. And that's also one of the reasons why it's been drummed out of society. Yeah, obviously. I mean, if you can call up a demon and you can change things, you can fucking take out the king. Like, who will want that to be existing in the general population? Obviously, you're going to send out the church, which is nothing but a political tool, just like any other religion, and you're going to have to fucking kill and fucking decapitate anyone who ever touches this fucking thing, and tell them they're going to go to hell. Obviously. And that's how power is consolidated, when at the same time every royal family, every king, everyone who's ever been anything was an occultist and magician, or connected to it.
Yeah, it's so crazy that they've weaponized our own minds against us. So, and it's even like the word imagination, like people just laugh at that and kind of like mock it. It's like, oh, that's not real. That's just your imagination.
Yeah,
it's just fairy tale.
Imagination.
Oh, Madge. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the etymology of magician is magi, which is a Persian word for it basically means the people that work with the electromagnetic force, magnetism, and that's exactly what we do.
I absolutely love that word now. Oh, it's so interesting when our language gets broken down like that, and you're like, everything's in plain sight. Everything.
Yeah. Your mind is trapped, or your spirit and your consciousness is trapped in your body, because you have cells. No, you're in a cell, and when you want to become whole, I wish I was whole. You're creating the emptiness within yourself. Language itself is a fucking control mechanism, and it's a system that it's literally designed to capture your spirit and your consciousness.
All of that, I felt like like that truth just walked right through me. That's a heavy hitter. Our cells. Whoa, I've never heard.
Yeah, your consciousness is trapped within your body in different cells.
Yeah. On the prison
planet. You have a prison sentence here, Robin. That's a prison sentence that you're experiencing here.
Mm-hmm. So, like, when you were talking about people like intentionally choosing the lives they want to reincarnate into, like, I guess, how does one start discovering like how to even like escape that? That's when you start getting into like beyond what a lot of people can comprehend.
Yeah. I mean, well, the first thing that you would have to do, which is basically what I'm teaching right now, I'm running an afterlife path working for some people that have signed up for it on the Grail of the Serpent, where I take them essentially through the different stages of the afterlife, which is essentially the different stages that are going to be experienced after death. And that's absolutely codified. That's not a fucking mystery. Like, it's so clear what happens after death. And there are different stages. There are different forms of afterlife, but eventually the body will reincarnate. The spirit will reincarnate. And if you learn how to experience that process and control it before your physical body has died, you have different choices. And you could do it like certain families where you can have like let's see, what is a good example? Let's say the Rothschilds or the Medici family or whatever. And with the Medici family, it's actually very, very, very well documented, right? So they had a pact with the demon Baal for in order to reincarnate into their own family lineage. So the basically the grandson was the granddad reincarnated, right? And that's how they wanted to do that in order to build these lineages and families of power and material wealth and stuff like that. And that's actually very common. A lot of royal families have that. A lot of names that you might have heard.
That
there's always
demon
a connection.
Ball, he's getting a lot of publicity right now with the Balenciaga scandal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they had like a caution tape on one of the photographs, and it normally says Balenciaga, but it was like BAL? I'm not sure. It's spelt wrong, and people were like, "What is this?" Because it's really linked to like a lot of that really dark pedophilia.
Do you know what Balenciaga means? It's Latin for, hold on, Balenciaga. Give me 1 second. I think great god Baal or something like that. That's the translation. Balenciaga. Balenciaga. I mean, you can spell it in different ways. Balenciaga. So Balenciaga means Baal's curse. Baal the king. Balenciaga means Baal the king. That's Latin.
Well, that's
right.
Really...
You would probably pronounce it Balenciaga.
Huh. Yeah, people are all in a huge outrage right now. Like people are all cutting up all their Balenciaga stuff.
I agree with that. Fuck them.
Yeah, no, it's pretty disgusting.
And fuck Kim Kardashian too.
Yeah. Ew. Well, that's interesting. Death path workings, like that's a new concept to me.
There's afterlife path.
Oh, sorry. death afterlife. I guess it's kind of, they're very different verbiage as I say it. I like the afterlife better, because I guess we're not dying. Oh, there's so many like questions. Then I could go into like the huge topic of like, why are we on a slave planet and how did we get here? And that's like the question I think we all want to know. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like when you start waking up to these truths and realizing that everything, it's so cliche because everybody talks about it, but it is so much like the Matrix. It's just it's creepy. It's just really creepy when you start seeing like the truth of what's going on here. And like everybody mocks David Icke, but I really enjoy that man for like what he's done to like try to get to the bottom of some of the truth. I mean, some stuff is way out there, but the truth is way out there, and you kind of need your imagination to help you see it, or you're just going to go into like cognitive dissonance. It's yeah. So I don't know. Can you, how did we get here, Frank? Do you know? What's your opinion on that? I mean, okay, so it's just like you have to accept the truth that like this is the reality. We know what we can do about it, but why is it?
Well, suppression of an insight only happens if or let me put it like this. The cognitive dissonance is only a problem if you don't know what to do next. If you're as mammals, we have three responses when it comes to overwhelming force. We can either attack, which in this case, like, what are you going to do, right? It's like way too powerful. The second response is flight. Like, what are you going to run away from? Like where? What direction? How do I get off this planet? Last time I checked, it was a sphere, right? And The third response is basically you freeze, and you disassociate and cut that off from your conscious awareness, right? So what people need is an empowerment. They need to understand that that's not all powerful and way too powerful for you to handle, and they have to have the means to deal with it. And then you know, you do whatever it is that you want. I mean, the number one thing that people have to understand is that this is not that big of a deal. All right. Humans are not that big of a deal. This planet is not that big of a deal. This entire system of energy is not that big of a deal. What really is the big deal is essentially your spiritual journey. The first thing you have to have is a perspective that goes beyond this current lifetime, and even beyond your lifetimes as a human being. And for that, you have to connect to a part of you that is greater than all of that. And then you operate from that perspective. And at that point, the world becomes exactly what it is. This universe and this whole existence is based on rules. And there's a reason why certain forces can be in charge and others can't. But one thing that could help other people is basically understanding that everything has to be balanced out. It's a dual universe. So there's a lot of evil, but there's just the exact amount of good in the world too. You know, and they both necessitate each other. People need to take on a bigger perspective. They need to learn about actual spiritual systems. I'm not talking about religions. Religions feed you propaganda. It's a political tool. Christianity is a political tool. Islam is a political tool. You need to learn how to understand the spiritual universes as they are. And what you will realize is that it's not your job to change what is there, because it's a game for consciousness to experience itself and to grow. You know, you're not there to turn this world into a better place, because that's futile. The more good you will create, the more bad is going to be there. The more bad you do, the more good is going to be there. It's not your job to clean up the universe or whatever. Well, your job is to learn and to grow and to take care of your own spiritual evolution. Now, ironically, that is exactly how you develop influence. Your sphere of influence is going to grow as you develop yourself. The problem that most people have is they're trying to take care of they're trying to change the world when they even can't balance their own fucking checkbook. That's the problem. They're so focused on other things when in reality they should be focused on themselves. That's it, you know? So you start with yourself, you develop yourself spiritually, and you gain control over your own personal universe. That's what you have to do. You don't have to worry about what Baal does or the elite. You care about your own spiritual universe. And as you do that, you expand your sphere of influence. And eventually, yes, you're going to get in contact with forces like that, but it starts with you. So I think the main problem is, you know, people call it spiritual journey and my spiritual awakening. You still haven't made your own life your own focus. That is the problem. You're still looking outside of yourself. And as long as you keep doing that, there's nothing that can help you. You're still controlled, you know.
Some somber truth right there.